What's up? Thursday, December 11th, 2025. Welcome to Frankly Hockey. I'm John Buccigross. Shout out Willie O'Ree. And that, of course, is Frank Seravalli. And, of course, we're both American-made, made in the USA. So today, we're going to talk about, of course, Team USA. Yeah, that's my Miracle on Ice autograph. I think every player signed. I talked about it before the show, Frank. Only 3 of the members have passed away. We've been pretty lucky with Team USA. They've had a nice, long, healthy life getting together. And so we're going to talk about this year's Team USA as they head to Milan and the Olympics at, of course, Lake Placid, 1980. I was 14 years old at the time. Remember it very, very well and what it meant to hockey. And I had already loved hockey. It didn't really mean anything for me in terms of creating fandom. I was out of the cradle. But for a lot of my friends, I was in Steubenville, Ohio at the time. That was a moment where they really started to pick up hockey. In that area, add Mario Lemieux 4 years later, and boom, Pittsburgh is one of the best markets in the country now.
Yeah, and look, I was just in Lake Placid a few months back for my son's tournament, and it's such an amazing place to go back to. I played on that rink as a kid, and that's a great piece of memorabilia. You know, the what that team has done, how they've stuck together. It's an amazing journey for them, and I think it speaks to the power of the Olympics, and that's why as we get closer here, 20 days out from rosters being selected and 62 days out from puck drop in the Olympics, I mean, we're all hoping that this goes off without a hitch in Milan with the arena because it's such a platform for this sport in this country to, especially if they can make something happen and go toe-to-toe with Canada, it's going to have eyeballs that it otherwise never would get. And it's like you're talking on par essentially with 35, 50 million people. You're talking potentially half of a Super Bowl that could be watching this. And that's how you hook fans. And that's why this year is so important with NHL players being back at the Olympics for the first time since 2014.
You're right. Best on best gets eyeballs attached to countries and a massive amount of eyeballs that informs people about the sport. I remember I watched the last Soccer World Cup. I learned about apparently global superstars I'd never heard of until I watched the final. And now I know those guys continually on from that day. So looking forward to projecting our Team USA rosters. We did Canada yesterday. But before we move on to doing that, let's start the show, Frank, with a little high five. Oh, wait, or is that a hand pass? Is that allowed? Are we allowed to high five? Because last night in Chicago, let's talk about it. And as Chicago and the Rangers got together behind the net, this happened as the Blackhawks, you see Doc falls down. He drags the puck towards himself, just taps it with the fingers, goes off the back of the net. He tries to sweep at it. 2 Rangers touch the puck of it, squirts off the front of the net off of Makheyev's stick. And then Ryan Donato shoots it into the net off the Rangers and into that. And after all that, it's no goal. And it prompted me to tweet, as I tend to do watching games every night like I do. Hand passes, no throwing of the puck, of course. That's ridiculous. Should be allowed. What's the big deal? It will always be the most efficient way to pass the puck will always be with your stick. You can kick a puck with razors on your feet, so you bump a puck with your hand like we saw there. Big deal. At this point, any chance to prevent replay reviews, the better. The crowd goes crazy, the organ goes, the music goes, and that's like giant fart, air out of the balloon, doesn't count.
You know, I have to admit that I never really thought about that perspective until I saw you tweet it. Like, why do we not allow hand passes? I understand maybe the gaining of an unfair advantage, but if I just go back to last week, right, and how controversial those 2 separate calls, the Hagel bat down and then Marchand behind the net. And it was really interesting to speak to the commissioner, Gary Bettman, at the Board of Governors meeting earlier this week because he was asked about those 2 sequences. And he said there's 1,312 games in an NHL season. 2 plays, when you think about all of the calls and non-calls over the course of a season, he said 2 plays does not a situation make. That was his exact quote. And I was thinking, well, that's a great way to try and tamp it down. But nonetheless, I feel like this is something that should be dealt with. And your idea of now saying, hey, let's just everyone allow hand passes.
Play on.
Why not?
Yeah, most of them are accidental. Most of them, like, hey, you're protecting. It's very rarely is it actually a punch to the net, but to a player. But either if you did that, it'd be a cool play. Maybe in front of the net, you're on the ice. Again, most players are on their feet, stick on the ice. You can't make a hand pass. Maybe you'll dive and kind of punch the puck on the ice across, but that's kind of a cool play. You could kick it, which is dangerous when guys are down, their faces are down on the ice. It just, and again, like any rule, when I talk about try it, if it's ridiculous for a year, or even try it in the American League first, we're going to allow hand passes. And if it becomes ridiculous and they realize, you know what, it does take away the skill, blah, blah, whatever. But so many are accidental shots, protecting themselves, a little tap here or there, and not really gaining an advantage. And now that we have more and more replays offside, as cameras have gotten better, more cameras. And it's just, I hate taking goals away. We don't have a lot of them in the sport. The over/under 6, on a game. And so it's such a buzzkill when we take goals off the board for everybody, the player, the fans, the broadcast, the entertainment of the sport.
So you've won me over. I'm converted, and I'm okay with hand passes moving forward with one caveat. You cannot direct the puck into the net with your hand, meaning you cannot punch it across the goal line if it's sitting there in traffic. That is not okay. You certainly can't throw it, but if you want to knock it down or if you want to knock it toward a teammate, there's skill involved in that. And I'm not, again, you can't close your hand on the puck. You've got to be able to just kind of move it. But so long as that's happening and it's not being directed into the net for a goal with your hand, I'm okay with making that change.
And how about this? Here's another caveat. This popped in my head right now. If your hand's on the stick, it's never a hand pass. If your hand's off the stick, maybe make it a hand pass, right? Now in that situation, that takes away the goal last night for me. So I've already kind of contradicted myself, but that could be your first step. Hands on the stick, you're part of the stick, you make contact, play on. But if your hand's off, then you can't use, and again, he was trying to tap it to himself, then he missed, and he made an honest attempt to play it with his stick. Another reason why. But yeah, in the end, I don't mind going the whole way. You can tap it with your glove. You can direct it with your glove. You can push it. You can protect yourself. Try it. Let's see. If it's ridiculous, we can change it back. That's all I'm saying.
Let's type up a proposal and send it to the general managers for perusal at their meeting in March.
All right. So I'll text someone right after the show. All right. I'm proud to be American, where at least I know I'm free, and I have good Wi-Fi, hence, frankly, hockey from 2 different states. So let's talk about Team USA, projecting the forwards for the 2026 USA Olympic team. There it is right there. We did Canada yesterday, and Frank, you have the first service. Throw the ball in the air and whack it in my court. What do you got?
So I've kept it mostly in line with the template that Bill Guerin and his staff have set up, which has been an emphasis on size and brawn. And you've got that, but you've also got that high skill quotient too with this team. And so admittedly, I don't have very many changes for this group from the Four Nations face-off. I thought they played exceptionally well. They beat Canada in the preliminary round, obviously losing in OT. I don't think that means that you take what you had and crumple it up and throw it into the trash. I think a few guys this season have had undeniable impacts and must be added to this group. And Jason Robertson is chief among them for me, because look at the way last year unfolded. He actually played his way off of the team. They originally had him on, and they were surprised that he didn't play well enough to stick with it. I think Matt Nyes is a unicorn. I think he is a guy that, with his physicality and his size and the skill, that he's got that unique blend that makes him a perfect fit for this team. And the guy that I'm a little bit on the fence about, but the fact, Bucci, that he got invited to Boston at the last minute as a potential injury replacement in Tage Thompson. To go back to the protocol that I set in shaping this roster and projecting it, that size stands out in a big way. What about you? What do you got?
Yeah, that's the one difference we have. As you can see, I have Thompson in my lineup as a solid number 3 center. I just, like you said, I love that size. And I like pairing him with Nyes, you mentioned, and that's why I really love the electric lightning bolt game of Caulfield, a guy who can score from distance, right? And that's what maybe this team, as you look at this team, maybe kind of lacks, outside Matthews. Eichel is passed first with a great shot. I wish he'd shoot more, but Thompson and Caulfield to fit your need of a big guy in the middle like Thompson, and then who can fire it from anywhere. He can score from 40 feet. Caulfield can score for 40 feet. Nye's so good around the net. That's kind of why. I went with Thompson there. And again, gold medal on that World Championship team. I think those guys, the fact that they went over there, did it, won. That's good vibes for obviously USA Hockey. It was a great moment for USA Hockey. It was a great moment for those kinds of players on bad teams like Tage and like Zach Werenski and players like that to play in a winning championship situation. So that's again very close, very similar. I almost had Pinto in there. I really love his speed and skating, but in the end, it was I felt Thompson. I like pairing him with Nyes and with again Caulfield's electric lightning bolt ability to score. And he's been a Team USA guy through and through too, going back to juniors, and I just love his. He is the kind of guy who is an exuberance that I think can help ignite a team in a tournament.
Okay, so I'll tee you up on Caulfield in a minute, but I have a few questions to throw at you based off of your roster and frankly mine. Jack Hughes, we both have him on the wing. I think provided that he's healthy, which I think we all assume that he will be following that repair to his hand. Can he find a way to be impactful on the wing? I thought he really struggled being moved off of center. That's going to be a real question mark for this entire forward group, I think, because if you have to move him to center, then you got to kind of rejig the whole thing. You think he can find a way to be impactful?
That's a great point because someone like him probably likes to keep moving. Someone of his size along the boards, sometimes it's actually can be, I think, more intimidating along a wall than in the open ice where he can use his agility and he's used to playing there. I don't think it would be difficult to kind of rejig, to use your term there. You could flip him and Thompson, right? Thompson could go to wing anytime. And Hughes certainly could go down in the middle and maybe play with a Gensel and a Connor. I mean, he could do that, right? It doesn't really matter first through fourth line. It maybe some of those guys still have a bit of an ego there, and not an unhealthy ego, but certainly you put him between Gensel and Connor, that'd be electric. So yeah, I think you have, but I would do it, Frank. I'd do it quickly. Like we have Four Nations data. And just a year ago. And so if you go in early, whether it's a preliminary game or something, and you don't like Hughes on the wing, this isn't working, because I always thought he might be a Patrick Kane kind of guy in the wing. But for whatever reason, Kane has, going back to a young fella, perfected playing the wing, a pass first winger, kind of like a center on the wing, Kucherov and himself. So, but yeah, I think that is something, that's a great point, just to see early, is this going to work? Because if it doesn't, you got to get off it quickly.
Okay, so from a utilization perspective, Kyle Connor is also an interesting question because, well, he was a healthy scratch for the championship game in Four Nations, and this is an authentic sniper, one of the best goal scorers in the league. If that's how they think about him, meaning the management and coaching staff hasn't changed year over year, should he be on the team still if they're not going to utilize him properly? Or is it better off to add like a Swiss Army knife? Well, we both have Vincent Trocheck on the team. That guy can play anywhere and with anyone and kind of play any style of game you want to throw at him. Are they better off utilizing someone else that brings a different element to the team?
It's a great point. Whether it's another center, like I don't have Nelson, you do. But yeah, because I could, again, and if we talk about taking Hughes down to a center, I mean, Kyle Connor, Austin Matthews, that would be good. Like, yeah, I'm very bullish on Connor. I thought he was good in Four Nations. I thought he got the shaft late in the tournament. Personally, I thought he was moving well. I thought he was impactful. I just thought they didn't put him in the situation over and over again. These are low scoring games, not a lot of room. So, but at any moment, I thought he could pop. So I thought he got the short end of the hockey stick in that tournament. I like him, but you're right. If they don't, then make the hard decision and bring, whether it's Nelson or whether it's Kreider, whether it's somebody having a good year. I guess Robertson, my only question, we know his boots aren't the fastest, but he's good in tight spaces. And if there's not a lot of room, and he'll be okay around the net. Playoff numbers okay, 18 goals, 56 games. So that's pretty good. That's like a 28 goal pace. It's not a 40 goal pace like he has a couple times. So he's not the same player in the postseason so far through 56 career playoff games. But he's on such a hot streak right now. And I made the argument with Morgan Geekie yesterday. So certainly I could see someone like him to whether he starts as an extra, but having that goal scoring touch coming in, to make a switch if things don't start off well, then I'm okay with that too. But yeah, it's again, it's small tweaks like yesterday up front. But you're right, it's up to the coaches what they feel about a player. If they're not all in, go somewhere else.
Yeah, and I mean that's why I had Brock Nelson on the team. Not only has he played really well for the Avs, but going back to Four Nations, the versatility that he has, plus the size down the middle. I thought as the game got frantic, like it was incredibly frenetic in those like the waning minutes of that third period. Like everyone's on the edge of their seat, biting their nails, and I thought Brock Nelson was aces. Like I thought he gave them some like 4 or 5 really good shifts in that third period. That was like, whoa, this guy's got ice in his veins. As the tension has gotten higher, he's gotten better. And I just thought those were important minutes that I'm like, as a coaching staff, I don't know how you can leave that guy off now.
Yeah, it's just the fact, he's kind of trending down his career. He was on a mid 30 to upper 30 goal heater for the Islanders. Now again, he was on the flank on the power play, and that helped a lot. Hit 11 power play goal season one year. That's not happening now in Colorado. He's got a couple this year, and Shane Pinto is kind of trending up to be that 35 to 40 goal guy. Pinto's a very good face-off guy. He's a right-handed shot. He can wheel. Obviously, he's going to be a little quicker pace than Nelson. But again, not a lot of room. Nelson got the experience of Four Nations 12 months ago. That's got to be a good factor too. This is going to be, I think it's going to be pretty similar. Obviously, no fighting. Pick up that blood. What's that sign say? No fighting. But it's still going to be intense. It's going to be very similar outside of the the Kachuk bouts and fights. But so he's used to it, right? So I think that maybe if the tie goes to the Four Nations guy, I'm sure both Canada and the US will probably lean that way, right? Just because they saw the data a year ago.
I'm glad you mentioned Pinto, though, because not only did he start the season exceptionally well, but he's been lauded for the work that he's taken on in matchups, and the defensive part of his game has been sound. So I think maybe a miss on my part not having him on my roster, and with your push, I think I could be convinced. So interestingly enough, looking at our defensemen, we don't have really much to debate here, because coincidentally, and we did this blind, like I didn't look at yours, you didn't look at mine.
Right.
We both had the same 8 defensemen representing the Americans in Milan, and neither one of us has Adam Fox there, a previous Norris Trophy winner. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I kind of grinded on that, but let's face it. I mean, at this point, Quinn Hughes, to me, the defenseman in the league, there's a few guys that are clearly, Makar obviously is the best defenseman. He's one. And then 1A is certainly, Quinn Hughes, making people better, electric. And I think Zach Werenski is right there. I think he's that elite. Like, I just wonder if you might take him in front of Slavin if you wanted 3 righties. Like I would. I mean, Slavin is not going to give you any offense. He's got a great one-on-one defender, and he snuffs it out. And you need that in 2-1, 3-2 games. That's as valuable as scoring a goal, is preventing a goal. That's Slavin's value, obviously. But yeah, and I just don't think at this, and you don't need really Foxy for the power play. He's not a power play goal scoring threat. We talked about that, how some of these guys they don't really score. They're good power play quarterbacks, but they don't really score. They don't give you that threat of scoring goals. And but yeah, no, that's a tough one for sure. But boy, Lacomb's game is, I covered him in Minnesota. He was in the national championship game. They lost to Quinnipiac. Just think, it was Lacombe, Faber, Logan Cooley, Matthew Nyes. That team was unbelievable. They lost to the Quinnipiac Bobcats. That's what that upset gets even more and more greater. But Lacombe didn't have this he didn't run the power. Faber didn't run the power play on that team either. So Lacombe's come so far. Wow, what a player! And so that's a strong D. But yeah, Adam Fox. It wasn't a great Four Nations. And just like we say, it'll help you on the positive. It probably will hurt. It'll probably not help you on the negative.
Yeah, and I think that was part of it, that it just seemed like as the tournament went on, they lost trust in him, and understandably so. I think he's lost a step. That's the biggest thing, is what made Adam Fox is that he just moves so well on the blue line, and I just haven't seen that, and I don't know where it went, and I know the Rangers are trying to find it. One quick note on Jacob Slavin. I mean, today is December 11th. He hasn't played in the NHL since
Yeah,
October 11th.
I thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a significant red flag for me. Like, he doesn't really appear to be close to coming back. And as that stalwart defender that you're counting on, you could make the argument he was the best defender overall in Four Nations, how well he played. It was like his coming out party to the rest of the hockey world that doesn't watch Carolina that closely. The fact that he hasn't played in 2 months, like, that's a concern for me, that this guy's got a lot of work to do to get up to speed.
Yeah, I was there about a month ago covering a game. Saw him walk out with some friends, and it was a little limp, but not a lot. And he was seemed fine. But I wonder, Frank, if they're kind of taking that long term analytics kind of effect. Maybe he's ready to play now, but let's take it one more month. You got the Olympics. Let's make this. This is a year we maybe could get to the Stanley Cup final with Barkov's injury, and maybe the Panthers vulnerable, although they're starting to go again, and that's no guarantee. But maybe let's give Slavin at this point in his career a 6-month season, right, and not a full complete season. Now, you would think if he's ready to go, he's ready to go. But maybe they're being ultra conservative because they know what's coming, and just get through and play the other players, develop them, give them big roles, and maybe then he'll show up. But it didn't seem like a major serious thing, and you wonder if they're just being ultra conservative, playing the long game as they hope to. Again, they're trying to change their playoff formula any way they can, because obviously they haven't quite got to the final step. They make it every year. They normally win a playoff round every year under Rod Brindamore. It's just getting all the way, and maybe this is part of the plan.
Yeah, I could see that patient approach for sure. I just don't know what kind of feeling that leaves you if you're Bill Guerin and the USA staff is like, you want to see this guy playing, and obviously you're selecting him. But anyway, when it comes to the goaltending, we don't also need to spend a ton of time on it because we both have the same three guys. I wrestled in the end with Jeremy Swayman as the third guy. And Connor Hellebuck, obviously working his way back, began skating with the Jets this week. He's not incredibly far off, probably another 2 weeks or so. But I was looking at Swayman and Spencer Knight thinking, man, maybe the young guy has edged out Jeremy Swayman. But then I look at their numbers and they're kind of equal, and Swayman was already there and part of this team. Like, maybe you just leave well enough alone.
Right. Yeah. And I've watched Swayman a lot this year. He's looked really good. 913 save percentage. He's won some games for the Bruins, who are overachieving a little bit this year. Off to a good start. And he's 13-7. So I think that's what you go with there. But I do think it's open in terms of being a starter. Again, Swayman, part of that gold medal team for Team USA last year, and he's played well in postseason in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Hellebuck has not. Ottinger, everyone always wants more because he's central casting when it comes to a goaltender. Big, speaks great, has a CEO vibe about him, like an NFL quarterback, always looks the part. So, I'm curious to see what shakes out there, but I think that should be wide open.
Yeah, totally agree. So we've gone through our rosters, forward, defense, and goalies. Let's compare it to Four Nations because, look, interestingly enough, both of us, day after day here, putting these two teams side by side. Canada, we both have them making more changes after winning than we do for Team USA. And so I wonder if maybe there's a healthy dose of recency bias based on part of what we've seen so far this year. But who was your toughest guy to leave off? Like, who was your biggest question mark that you really wrestled with?
Yeah, I mean, it's not difficult because they're all so good, right? So I wouldn't look at it too difficult because, again, you're talking bottom six, and normally you're talking 5-6D. But I actually really looked at Chris Kreider because as I look at some of these wingers on Team USA, they're slight. And you talked about the brawn factor, the fact that Kreider has found his game now around the net in Anaheim, playing with good players, young and old, whoever it may be, from Carlson, McTavish, and then Troy Terry, who's in his prime, and Killorn, just all the teammates put together, defensemen. They have vets, they have young pups. So overall, I just kind of like this. That Kreider kind of found his game, and he could maybe provide some of that brawn and forecheck. We talk about Tom Wilson because the rink is shorter on the Canadian side. Well, we should probably apply that to Kreider as well, who might feel a half step quicker, right? Because the ice is smaller. So that was my one thing. Maybe do we need a little more brawn on some of these wings when you look at Team Canada, from lines 2 down?
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think Kreider has made the best case of some of those guys that we both have out. But for me, my toughest call was on Cole Caulfield. And I know that you have him on your team. You mentioned the
Yep.
lightning bolt, the electricity that he provides. And it's undeniable the clutch factor that he's had when you need a goal. If you're the Montreal Canadiens, he's the guy. But I just felt like some of the commentary we've seen around this team, listening to Bill Guerin, he said, if you can't check, this tournament probably isn't for you. I mean, that Cole Caulfield is kind of like the poster child for that comment, right? Like, and what I struggle with this because you try and celebrate the things that guys do well as opposed to the parts of their game that they don't have. And I just wondered if in this big boy tournament, like I don't know that the US is going to be able to look past the size and say, hey, we're going to take this high end skill player when we have so many other high skill players. That he feels like a guy to me that's on the outside looking in. And that's just me viewing this through the public commentary that Team USA's management team has already put out there.
Right. Again, you look at one-timers on the power play, right-handed shot. Matt Thompson and Caulfield give you that more than anybody else really on the team. Shootout is a part of the Olympics, and certainly those guys can help you there. So these are things you think about for sure. That might be a little bit different than Four Nations. You do have to kind of consider that a little bit. Let's bring in our guest now, Frank. This is what a year for Craig Button. I mean, we have the World Juniors coming up, then he gets the Olympics, and then the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, if you count 2026 for World Junior, Craig Button, you have to be just smiling ear to ear. This is like your kind of year when it's just big hockey after big hockey. What's up, my man?
Yeah, everything's good, John. Nice to spend some time with you. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
when we get high level competition, and there's no higher competition in December and early January than the World Junior Tournament. So that's a best on best tournament that's going to lead into the Olympics in February, which is the ultimate in best on best. And then we know with the Stanley Cup playoffs and with the way the NHL standings are right now and how close everything is, I mean, buckle up. I think we're in for a fantastic run the next 6 months. And if anybody thinks that the season is too long, I don't think once we get through this stretch, anybody's going to complain about the season being too long, because the hockey is going to be fantastic. And the drama will be even higher than we've seen, I think, in
Ugh,
years past.
thick.
Yeah.
So, Craig, you've watched him closely, obviously pre-draft, then into the NHL. Help us settle. Like, I've got Cole Caulfield off my Team USA. Bucci has him on. Where does he land for you?
Well, see, you want to make it about Cole Caulfield. I'm going to make it about who I think is the smarter person here. So I gotta lean towards John here with Cole Caulfield. Anyway, that being said, it's interesting. There's fascinating options here for team. The first thing I want to say is what Team USA need is goals. Billy Guerin can talk all he wants about checking. If you can't check, this tournament is for you. Good, fall short again. Want to fall short? You need goals. And you need somebody that can be a difference maker at the most important times. That's why Cole Caulfield's on my team. That's why you better be careful about just saying you check. Because there's lots of guys that can check, and it's not going to matter if you can't score.
And as you look at these two rosters, Craig, I kind of give the edge to the forwards, to Canada, maybe the defense with Team USA. Would you agree? Are either of the rosters, where are the vulnerabilities of both rosters?
So let me go first. Let's start. Net, big two check mark for Team USA. There's no question they
Right.
have a massive advantage in net. On the blue line, I think the advantage is one check. And then you flip over to Team Canada. They get the check in the forwards. I mean, you start to think about, okay, you got McKinnon, you got McDavid, Crosby still at the top of his game. Oh, and by the way, Celebrini and Bedard have emerged as players that are just simply brilliant. So, that's an edge for Team Canada up front. And certainly, with Billy Guerin, back to what Billy's talking about with checking, right? You got a goalie. You got the defense that can handle it. And so you got good players. Like Team USA's got really good players that can check. And I think because Canada has that scoring ability, you got to find a way to get one more goal than them. It might have to be like it was in those Canada Cups when it was 6-5. It might have to be that way. I think if you're going to try to beat Canada 3-2, you're going to fall short.
So I want to ask you about the goaltending, because I think that's been sort of this foregone conclusion is, the U.S. has such a big advantage. Last time I checked, Connor Hellebuck just started skating again, coming off of a knee scope. And by the way, like, not to point out the obvious here, but 6 players were originally selected to this team, and the U.S. didn't pick the reigning Hart and Vezina Trophy winner, probably in light of his playoff performances with the Winnipeg Jets. So are you really sure that it's that big of an advantage for the U.S.?
Oh, I'm 100% positive. Listen, Jordan Binnington's one of the worst goaltenders this year in the National Hockey League. You can talk about Scott Wedgwood. He's not going to be on the team. There's no chance he's going to be on the team. He's never had any type of number one goalie status, and I don't care what he's done for 20 games. And so now you're going to Darcy Kemper, Logan Thompson types. Bottom line is, Hellebuck has been the MVP. What are you going to do, leave the MVP off? Listen, one of the things that Connor Hellebuck did last year in the playoffs is that he had his moments where he was really struggling, and yet he found ways to get on the right side of things. He battled through, and you don't find a way to get through that without some adversity. I thought Connor handled that really well, just like Jake is handling it. And Jeremy Swayman, who didn't have a good year last year, he's been terrific for the Boston Bruins. I have zero questions about USA. Like, if we want to talk about who should start, that might be a different question. But in terms of the 3 goalies for Team USA, like, not only do I have zero questions about them, I have zero doubt about their what I call double check marks over the Canadian goaltending.
Let's talk about Team USA and the forward group as you look at that roster. Is there anything that sticks out to you, what position a guy should play? We were talking about Jack Hughes on the wing. He didn't look very comfortable in Four Nations. As you look at them and trying to construct a line after line, momentum, carry the play kind of a team, and maybe even go more offensive. Trust, if you got the better goalies, why not play more offensively? If you feel like you got the better goalies, I think everyone would agree. As you look at the roster there, Craig, what do you think about the formation of the lines and the grouping?
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because, as you just mentioned, John, about Jack Hughes is a superstar in this league. He's not a winger. So I think if you put can you leave Jack Hughes off the team? Absolutely not. I don't think you can play him on the wing. Like, I think he's ineffective on the wing to the level that his skill dictates. So I'm not putting Jack Hughes on the wing. I'm putting Jack Hughes in a spot where he can try to take advantage of some of those areas. That's why I talk about goal scoring. Jack Hughes and Cole Caulfield were a dynamic duo at the National Team Development Program. They know each other. So at the very least, I would look to try to get situations where I could have Hughes in the middle, and if I'm going to use Caulfield in situations like that, there's going to be some 4-on-4 hockey. There's going to be some opportunities where you can support the other side of that. That's how I'd be looking at using Jack Hughes. We know about the Kachucks, okay, so we're good there. Matt Boldy is an unbelievable player. I know, John, you've talked about him. People don't even know how good he is because
Right.
I don't know why they don't know. Matt Nyes is a big, heavy player. So I think that they have the ability to spot players in the different areas of the team where they can get the best out of them. And I don't think the best out of Jack Hughes is on left wing. I think you got to free him up. I think you got to put. I would much rather put Thompson over to the wing and then have Jack play in that hole there. And Eichel, Matthews, Hughes, Larkin up the middle of the ice. Oh boy, that's going to create some real challenges for Team Canada and for any other opponent for that. But we all believe that the collision course for the gold medal is Canada-USA. I don't think there's any doubt about it. So I try to put things in that perspective and frame it that way when I think about the lineup. So other than that, I put Thompson over to the wing and have Jack Hughes play in the area where he can have the greatest impact.
Yeah, I agree with you. And right before you joined, we actually just had that exact conversation. Can Jack Hughes be effective on the wing? And I think both of us agreed no. One sort of guy that we both were on the fence, I have him on, Bucci has him off, Jason Robertson, what have you seen from him, and has he done enough for you to earn a spot?
Well, I think he's been terrific this year. Like he didn't play at the same level that we saw him in previous years last year, and certainly the playoffs were not. I don't think we're indicative of what his capabilities and skill level we've seen from him. But he's been a really good player for the Dallas Stars this year, and I think that he is showing the things that are necessary for him to be effective. Pushing his way into the scoring areas. He's never going to be a physical, heavy, what I would call a hard player, but make yourself hard to defend. Get yourself into the right spots where they have to pay attention to you and be hungry in those scoring areas. And I think he's done all of those things. So to me, Jason has done everything to be on the team. And I think with Jason's play, Matthew Nice's play, Thompson's play, that it's not so much about where other players. I think they've elevated enough to push other players out of the lineup, and I think that's why I would have Jason Robertson on the team. And like, he's an excellent power play guy, and I think he can adapt to so many different types of players, which I think is really important as well.
And then my last question, Craig, is there a coaching advantage? How does an average hockey fan see a coaching advantage? We see it in other sports. Do you believe it's possible for a coach to make a big difference in the outcome of a hockey game, especially this kind of best on best?
John Cooper and Mike Sullivan, and I'm naming the two North American coaches, are outstanding coaches. I think the benefit that they have is twofold. Number one, they have the benefit of the Four Nations tournament. It's very recent. The bulk of the teams are going to be the same. Getting that feel for the players and understanding where they can respond, where they can be best positioned to give the most to the team. I think that's really important. I think the second part of this is they also are watching and coaching in the NHL on a game in, game out basis, which I think gives them a huge advantage over all the other coaches. And that being said, now it comes down to John and Mike. So who's a better coach? Okay, I'll just today's Thursday. Okay, I'm going to celebrate the Terrier, so I'm going to go with Mike Sullivan. Tomorrow on Friday, I'm going to celebrate John Cooper, who was a lacrosse star.
Go Hofstra.
Right. So is there any discernible difference between the two of them? I don't think there is. I think they're both outstanding, but the benefits they get are knowing these players. I mean, you think about it. You think about last year in the Four Nations gold medal game. I mean, Austin Matthews won that 3 different times, but Binnington denied him 3 different ways. And then Connor McDavid, who hadn't really shone as of yet in that gold medal game, one chance and it's over. And I don't think that's coaching. I think that's different areas of the team. Never do I see Mike Sullivan leave his team vulnerable. Never do I see John Cooper leave his team vulnerable. I think that's top coaching. We say it all the time. I don't think John or Mike will hold the team back. Who can step up and deliver the big goal or the big save when you need it?
So, Craig,
the Hofstra. Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
I was going to say
Hofstra Pride, by the way.
Yeah, the Pride. I was thinking of what their mascot was. So the Pride and the Terriers. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Interesting day for you to wear a Michigan hat.
Why?
I don't know. You see any news about their football program over the last 24 hours?
I see that, but what am I going to do? Bail when things are not good? I don't bail when things are not good. I'm going to listen. I'm with the Wolverines. Go blue. And hey, it's unfortunate. Obviously, there's situations that are put in place, and more violated them, and obviously it looks like he got himself into a little bit of criminal trouble too. So bottom line, see ya. You're out of here. Next guy up. Let's go. As Bo Schembechler said, we'll have a Michigan guy coach Michigan. Sharon Moore, no longer. He did it to himself.
And I just want to say, last time I saw you, Craig, was at a bar in Calgary, and you presented me with a famous hockey photograph of the famous handshake between Sugar Jim Henry, the Bruins goalie, battered and bloodied, shaking Maurice Richard's hand, and almost like a reverent bow to Richard, who had just beaten the Bruins. And I treasure that picture. I thank you again for it. And I just want to say, last time we saw that was a gift, so I can't wait to see you again for my next gift.
Yeah, Okay, so you're counting on a gift. I know what the expectations are. I just have to
Yeah,
deliver.
you've established the boundaries of our relationship. I appreciate it. Oh man,
All
Craig,
right.
thank you so much. I
Thanks,
love
Shane.
listening to you talk about hockey. I love talking about hockey with you. The passion pours out of you like Niagara Falls. And enjoy, like I said, the World Junior, the Olympics, and the Stanley Cup playoffs. And hope to see you again at a Calgary bar.
Well, you'll see me probably, maybe not at Calgary. If it's Calgary, great. But you two,
Mm.
John and Frank, you're passionate about the sport. You're passionate about what you do. You're excellent at what you do. A pleasure to be on with you both. So, may the holidays treat you and your family and your loved ones and your friends as you should be treated, warmly and wonderfully.
Well, we'll see you next week, Craig. Thank you.
Awesome. The great Craig Button here on Frankly Hockey.
By the
All right,
way,
time to ask. Go ahead.
wait, you got a gift from Craig. I got a totally different kind of gift. So when Craig and I worked together at TSN, I can't tie a good knot. And so he would just I'd hand him my tie and he would tie it for me because this is a skill and you need a good, proper knot. And
I agree.
whatever event we were at, I just go here, like, I can't do it. You can do it way better than I can. And he would just hand it back to me and I'd slip it on. Anyway,
Yep.
for Christmas one year, I got a box at my door and he sent me like 6 pre-tied ties. I don't know if they were just like old ones from his closet that he was looking to move on from or what, but they were beautiful. And they were pre-tied. So I just kept them. They're still in my closet pre-tied. Like if I have a trip and I know that I need to wear a tie, which I try and avoid doing these days after COVID, I've got the Craig Button pre-tied tie ready to go.
I moved from Pennsylvania to Ohio when I was 11. And I then started going to Catholic school from this because in Pennsylvania it was public K through 5. Then I moved to Ohio, and the Catholic schools had a better sports program. So that's why my parents sent me there. But you had to start wearing a tie every day, and I couldn't tie a tie. So yeah, my dad started tying it. My dad, he could put that dimple right in the middle that you could put like marinara in and eat cheese sticks out of. I can't get that tie even to this day. So even when I was at ESPN, my dad would tie my tie, same thing. I would take it off, loop it around, put it on a hanger, and I'd always have a perfect dimpled tie. And that reminds me, the book I wrote with Keith Jones way back in the day. Jonesy never learned how to tie a tie. Even to this day, when he worked at TNT, here, Ben Boma, tie my tie. And he would tie, because Jonesy to this day, the president of the Flyers, can't tie a tie. Breaking news.
Yeah. Well, and Craig, he knew, like, he goes, and you press here for the dimple. I'm going, what? Like it's all over the place. You wrap this and this. And I'm like, dude, I can tie a knot, but it's not any good. So I'm just going to rely on the best. You got to go to the source.
I'm not consistent. Occasionally I'll get it, but I'm not consistent. All right, let's ask, speaking of colors and ties and fashion, let's ask the insider about NHL fashion. Great matchup last night. I was watching Rangers and the Blackhawks on TNT. And again, black and white TV, which I watched in the 1970s. Our second TV was a black and white TV downstairs, and I watched the 78 Stanley Cup Finals, 79 Stanley Cup Finals on a black and white. It happened. So you have to have one team in white. But now with color TVs, it's okay, right, Frank, to have two teams, both teams with dark color uniforms?
So a Centennial game last night between these two teams, by the way, and Centennial jersey on for the New York Rangers. And the answer to that is yes. We saw this earlier this season with the Rangers and Red Wings as they both wore their Centennial jerseys, also blue on red. And so the league is open to it in certain situations that make sense. So you're not going to see it often, but this Ranger blue, I was kind of down on this jersey when it was first released because it's so similar to all the other Ranger jerseys, but I think this one works. And by the way, if you're interested in some jersey news, here's one. When the Colorado Avalanche visit the Montreal Canadiens in a few weeks, they have been permitted to wear the Quebec Nordique jerseys in Montreal. So you're going to have Nords Habs head-to-head in La Belle Province. It's going to be pretty good.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. I love that. So yeah, that was a gorgeous matchup last night, and a great win for Chicago. And Bedard, we talked about his Olympic case yesterday, even as a top liner, and while he looked the part again last night with a gorgeous goal, that release is just sinister. And Chicago really needed it. I'm jumping on the plane today, Frank, flying to St. Louis for Blues Blackhawks tomorrow night on ESPN Plus. So looking forward to see Chicago again. I'm sure Jeff Blashill, who had his birthday yesterday, feels loop because the Blackhawks were leaking oil. They were not
Yeah,
good.
and
So
Mike Sullivan was really disappointed in his team, saying, "Hey, we knew that they just got shellacked. We knew that they were going to have a sense of urgency to their game, and the fact that we weren't able to meet that from opening puck drop, knowing it was coming, that left a pretty dejected Mike Sullivan and New York team."
Yeah, they looked really flat, and the Blackhawks said it was basically a training camp practice. They had a couple days to practice, and it paid off in the end. All right, on now to hashtag hockey, and this is really a wonderful story. Leo Carlson, Brian Russ. If you're not aware, Carlson, you've heard him talk a few times. He battles a stutter here in his young life. Brian Russ was throughout his career also at times he would courageously though say yes to any interview. He's really done much better with his as well. But once he heard about Leo Carlson, having this issue as a young man, he reached out to Leo Carlson. Big age difference from different countries, but he reached out to him, and recently he talked about why and what he did in reaching out to Leo Carlson.
Situation as me. Obviously, he had a little bit more spotlight than me when he's younger. I guess he still is younger, yeah, just told him to embrace it. He saw that I was working with friends, and I think he's doing the exact same thing in Anaheim. I met with him and a kid after the game in Anaheim last year, and I think he's going to come with me this year tonight. So I think it's something that we've...
And what don't you pick up from here and explain it, Frank?
It's just a beautiful story. Like you said, two guys from different countries. They play in different conferences. And Leo Carlson's story as that top pick for the Ducks was pretty well publicized. And in fact, on draft day, about an hour after he was picked, I did a one-on-one with Leo Carlson on camera and was so blown away by his confidence to be able to speak. He hasn't done a ton of media since. He's not really in the spotlight. But this organization that Brian Rust is referring to is called Friends, and he brings friends to Pittsburgh Penguins games on the regular and meets with them afterwards just to encourage kids that have a stutter to keep going, to gain that confidence necessary to speak. And Leo Carlson, of course, he's now replicated that same thing. And so to see that sort of brotherhood and friendship, that bond that exists between two guys that don't know each other from a can of paint, that is the hockey fraternity to me in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's a great lesson about reaching out if you can help in any aspect of your life. But again, going back to when I moved to Ohio as an 11-year-old, it was tough. It was a very competitive athletic situation. You get bullied a little bit because someone you're taking a spot maybe on a certain athletic team when you get there. And I remember I really battled at times a huge stutter myself. And looking back, the word anxiety wasn't used in the 80s. It just didn't exist. And I remember going to tell him, I could never forget this. My dad, I think, was mowing the lawn, and I walked up to try to tell him I was going to my friend Albert's house. And A's are tough when you battle a stutter. And I could not get it out. And what happens then, the anxiety builds and your chest gets tight because you get this fear and you get a flushness. And I'm sure Leo and Brian feel the same thing right in your chest. And you literally, why can't I? And I knew I wanted to be a broadcaster in, my teenage years right away. And I wondered, geez, am I going to be able to be a broadcaster because of this stutter? Now, in the end, I realized it was anxiety. It was everything else that I was dealing with at school and stuff that came out that way. And it has never been an issue really since probably going to high school and college. But it might have perked up a few times, after that. But in the end, it was nothing. But it really kind of stems from anxiety. So that story, Frank, really, I know the feeling. Some people can't empathize with some things because, I can empathize with a kid going through a stutter, and I would not have had the courage they did to do an interview like that publicly. That's amazing.
Just a reminder too, like even some things that are outwardly public like that you can see, you never know what someone's going through. And so the fact that Rust heard the story and reached out on his own volition, pretty amazing.
It is. And of course, I worked with Bill Walton for a long time, and he couldn't talk at UCLA and early on his Portland Trailblazer career. And he went on to be the best broadcaster of all time. So that's the thing,
Mhm.
too. If anybody's watching this, maybe a teenager or someone even who's 18, 19, you can eventually, when you figure it out and you breathe and other issues, that once you realize that anxiety goes away, you can beat it. You can conquer it. All right. We talked about yesterday's show about that
Mm.
Detroit Calgary game. You look good early, Frank. I was rooting for you.
I wasn't feeling too good. It never feels good with the under because again, you're rooting against goals. And when it
Hmm.
was 4-0, I was thinking, I mean, maybe there's a chance. Maybe one of these
Yeah.
teams just falls asleep at the wheel and you could be in
Yeah.
it. But nonetheless, I think that's going to be my last under for a while, my first of the season and last. So tonight, I'm going to try and keep it rolling here, get back up to +5 units. I'm going to go the Flyers on the money line, hosting the Vegas
Hmm.
Golden Knights. Carter Hart returns to town. Don't know yet if he's going to be in the Golden Knights crease. He started the last 2 games in a row, so maybe a night off for him. But returning back to Philadelphia, where he sort of sent a clear statement and not coming back to the team that he wanted to play for a team that had a chance to win. And so the Flyers, they're dogs on home ice. They've played pretty well of late. They've picked up some big wins. Maybe I've been wrong about the prism that I viewed the Flyers through as a 625 points percentage team so far this year. I like them in this spot nonetheless as a plucky team going up against the Golden Knights.
Yeah, I mean, they've won 7 of 10. They're a wild card team in the Eastern Conference, along with the Penguins. So Pennsylvania owns the 2 wild cards, and Rick Tocchet off to a solid start. Played a lot of home games, 17 home games, 11 road games, but they are over 500 on the road. And again, they're a +7 differential goal team. So the Flyers are solid. They should be right around that bubble all year long. All right, time for the last word, Frank. What is it?
Yeah, and when taking a look at the last word today as we close out our show, just some commentary on an interesting question that popped up with the commissioner, Gary Bettman, in his visit to Winnipeg on Wednesday when he was asked about franchise records. And you think, oh, maybe this, who does this appeal to? Is this really that big of a deal? And then when you hear the commissioner say that Jets owner Mark Chipman has been sort of beating down his door and they're considering some feasibility of what this would look like and how it would transfer. The Jets want to own Jets 1.0 records. And that door has been open since, the Coyotes records didn't transfer to the Utah Mammoth franchise. That was the start of technically a new franchise entity that, okay, you think, all right, just transfer those Jets 1.0 records back to Winnipeg. And it's as simple as that. The commissioner said not so fast. So just wanted to shine a light on the franchise record aspect. I think it would be relatively simple to do, and it's been done different ways with different leagues, as Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly pointed out. But I like leaving the Atlanta Thrashers records in Atlanta. I like leaving the Coyotes records in Phoenix. But since the Winnipeg Jets 1.0 did play in Winnipeg, give them back their records.
Yeah, it does seem like an easy thing. I'm not sure what the challenge is. I guess database, computer wise. I don't know, because those, like you said, those are dormant. And just again to explain to our viewers, once the Coyotes moved or went to Utah, that was a brand new. It wasn't an expansion team. Obviously, the players and the front office and the coach and the GM all went to Salt Lake City. But again, the all-time leading Utah goal scorers, it's not what happened in Arizona. It's from last year on. So that's just, and we saw it in football with the Cleveland Browns, and when they went away for a while, then came back, and to have that link in history. But yeah, for now, they're kind of dormant there in Arizona. We expect a team to be there again one day. We think we're going to have a team in Atlanta again one day. I'm not sure if there seems to be consensus, Frank, that they'll be the Arizona Coyotes again. Do you think they'll be the Atlanta Thrashers again if Atlanta does indeed get a team?
No, I think they're going to want to start fresh for a team that had literally no success.
Yeah, Ray Ferraro, maybe the greatest Thrasher of all time. I don't know. Again, Willie O'Ree, shout out, 90 years old, Frank. What a prince of a man. I know you've met him. He's just what a way he has decorated our sport.
Unbelievable, and still going strong. So love to see him out and about making appearances. He's just literally devoted his entire life to the game.
Again, the coolest guy. So a big night, NHL tonight, Frank. 13 games. Again, I'll be flying out to St. Louis. It's going to be cold. I'm getting too late to go to was it Napoli's up there in
On the
Clayton where
hill?
they make the great veal parm chop.
Ooh.
Oh, it's fun. It's phenomenal, but it's going to
Little
arrive too
toasted
late.
rav, or
Unfortunately.
no? Are you toasted ravioli guy?
Not really. It's usually parm all the way, veal or chicken, or bolognese. I also love the bolognese.
I had a good bolognese the other night in Colorado Springs. Pretty good.
Carbs, protein, it's an ideal meal. All right. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up another Frankly Hockey?
No, we're gonna add in some college hockey talk. Give the people what they want, and we'll have
Go.
Guy Gadowski joining us on Friday. So super excited to talk to him and about Gavin McKenna and the Penn State Nittany Lions as a Penn State grad myself.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, they're a ranked team. We've heard all this McKenna talk. Why not go to the coach, go to the source? And they're in the middle of not playing hockey for like 42 days. Obviously they lose players to there's a Spangler Cup this year where they're using all college hockey players from USA and Canada. It's not country oriented, just a college hockey team going to the Spangler Cup. And of course, junior players as well for the World Junior Tournament. So these college programs don't like to schedule games when they know some of their guys aren't going to be there. In the computer ranking world of college hockey, that matters, and so every win and loss does matter.
Yeah, and the Big Ten, competing in that is unbelievable this year. I mean, I know you mentioned the best conference in college hockey yesterday in the show. I'm going to fight you on that and say that it's the Big Ten.
Well, NCHC historically has been, but this year so far. But we'll see. Can the Big Ten win the big one? They haven't done it yet at the Frozen Four. I have Wisconsin number one. The other polls, the fake news polls still have Michigan number one, but I got the Badgers at number one right now. So yeah, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Penn State.
Next week we're going to have your rankings on Monday, so you better bring the fire.
Ooh. We'll unveil them on Frankly Hockey. We'll save them for Frankly Hockey. We'll debut them here before they go to the other places. All right. I'm off to St. Louis, buddy. And also tomorrow I'll be in my hotel room at the Westin doing this show. We'll see how my travel kit travels. We're a little nervous we can replicate this beautiful setting here.
I'm very confident in you. You'll figure it out.
Stream on, player. Stream on. We'll see you tomorrow on Frankly Hockey. Peace.